All right, so my ancient civilization was the civilization of the Rapa Nui on Easter Island. It's one of the most isolated places in the world, being 2,200 miles from the west coast of Chile. And the first settlement was around 318 AD. DNA from 14 ancient Rapa Nui skeletons were analyzed, and they turned out that they were very similar to Polynesian DNA, which proved that they're from Polynesia. Between 1600 and 1722, the society had a massive ecological and cultural upheaval, which eventually was like how they fell. And shown in soil samples, there was evidence of deforestation and overuse of land, like soil depletion. And the island was discovered by the Europeans in 1722 when Jacob Roggeveen, a Dutch navigator, found it on Easter Sunday in 1722. And the reason it's called Easter Island, the Europeans' names Easter Island, is because they found it on Easter. So, my research question is, what significance did the Moai have for the Rapa Nui people? So to start off, a Moai is a large legless stone monument with accented ears, noses, heads, and sometimes eyes. And the average Moai on Easter Island is 14 feet tall, 6 inches, and is an average of 14 tons. There's over 850 of these giants scattered around the island, mostly on the exterior, but some are still in their quarries, in transport, or in various parts of the island, like on top of the volcanoes and whatnot. They were constructed as early as 500 AD, but the peak production was between 1000 and 1650 AD. The Moai were carved with basalt hammerstones, which is just kind of rock shaped in a way that helped them chisel the volcanic rock more efficiently. And they were quarried at one of the volcanoes that was called the Rano Raraku volcano, and that's what most of them were made out of. And it took 50 to 150 people to move these massive stone monuments using log rollers, wedges, and roads. The Moais weren't just monuments, they actually had a purpose. They were like other Polynesian traditions, they were used for they were used for religious things, that they were believed to, if they were blessed correctly and erected and assembled correctly, that they would harbor the sacred spirit, which the Rapa Nui people would go and in turn worship. And sometimes, like, if your tribe had more Moai and in their one area, that you'd be more wealthy or more powerful. And these Moai were on stone tablets called ahu, but they were also assembled in groups, and this was also called an ahu. So an ahu is the stone tablet that each of the Moai sit on, and then they produce the big ahu, or it's basically like what a sanctuary would be in or like a temple would be in a lot of religions, where they would go and pray to the sacred spirit. Most of the Moais have their back towards the ocean, lining the coast, but they're most concentrated on the southern coast of the island. And there are 250 ahus around a half a mile apart around the whole island, but only 32% of the Moai actually got to their ahu due to certain transportation problems and warfare and whatnot. And sometimes the Rapa Nui people would take down a Moai or a whole ahu and put a bigger, more grand monument in its place. And the fall of the civilization was pretty could have been avoided, because the pollen in the sedimentary layers showed that there was a mass deforestation that started around 1,000 years ago, and they basically used the logs for fuel and for construction and for moving the moai. And the island was covered in a tall wine palm that was mostly found in the European or in Chile, the Chilean mainland. And when the forests weren't like there anymore because they'd been all used up, they couldn't use them to roll the moai once they chiseled them from the volcano, and so moai production stopped. And while the forest dwindled and the soil deteriorated, making food and structures and moai led to a lot of warfare and conflict, which resulted in territorial moai tipping, which you basically get a bunch of guys and push one over if you didn't like the area that it was in. So that's Easter Island.